Welcome to Industry Vancouver, conversations about the residential real estate industry with Andrew Hasman and Jeff Benna.
When I was looking at the summary of what we're going to discuss today, for all you listeners out there, you put together an amazing summary of what we're going to talk about, but there were some things in here I didn't have a clue what they were, and I just thought, am I totally out of the loop on some of these terms, LACAP test and anyway, I went on to Google, I started looking at it thinking, oh my God, like, where does this come into it? So maybe you can explain. But anyway, I was just a bit blown away, and I thought, okay, I'll just sort of play along and we'll have a good conversation.
We'll get into all of it. I was geeking out a little bit. I had a number of conversations with clients over the past few weeks, and there was a bunch of questions that sort of kept coming up, and people were inquiring and asking about different aspects of what we're doing. And I thought, you know what a great idea. Let's just go back and do a deep dive. We'll answer all those questions, or as many of them as we can. And once again, try to put it into some kind of a relevant, actionable, bit of information here that's great for our clients.
And at the same time, keeping a positive spin on things, because I remember that article I sent you this morning from a realtor who we know well, no names provided, but great article. But when you read it, and a lot of it all makes sense, it takes a fairly accurate look at things, but it's fairly negative. And, you're kind of shaking your head. But I think we're the last half full type of guys, I think. We're optimistic. But we're also realistic as well. But, when you don't watch the news and you don't watch social media, and we're just getting on with our daily lives and helping our clients. Yeah. I know you've been busy, Jeff, and I've been busy, phenomenal. I did not expect to be this busy in the months of July and August as I have been. And I know you've been as well. I'm just like thinking, my goodness, like, it's unbelievable when you just go sort of get too absorbed by all the negativity that's out there. Life's pretty good, and I think business is fine. But again, all that stuff that you read in the news and on social media, people love to sort of focus in on the worst case scenarios or the extreme situation because it's all kind of newsworthy.
Well, it's sensationalized.
It's sensationalized, exactly.
Get some eyeballs. How can we get some people looking at me?
Yeah, it draws attention. But for our listeners, I got to tell you, this has been one of my busiest summers in the last, 4 or 5 years. Pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
People are actually doing stuff. But there's those people walking around with their heads down and depressed. I think they're the ones that watch too much news and listen to too much social media. But anyway, that's just my take on it.
I would agree totally. Now, other than the work, and we've been busy too. How's been the rest of your summer? We're fast approaching Labor Day. And I always think about when you're in grade school, you write that little essay when the first week back, what I did on my summer vacation. And I think, oh gosh, you know what?
Yeah. Summer, my biggest complaint is it's just too short in Vancouver. It's phenomenal. Maybe that's why you embrace it and celebrate it and enjoy it because it is short. If we lived in Southern California or in a sunnier climate, warmer climate, maybe it's not a celebration because every day is kind of like summer. But in Vancouver, when you get these days where it's 25 degrees or 28 and the sky's blue, you rejoice. You take every second of it and enjoy it. So for me, it's I've been working up to doing my half marathon, so I'm running a long run every week, up to just over 16 kilometers now. Big thing for me, right? And also getting out on the bike and enjoying the seawall and heading out to UBC. We live in one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Safe, clean. Again, don't watch the news. Don't look at social media. Just get out and enjoy the city. Get out and enjoy summer, and I guarantee you feel that much better. It's we're blessed to be where we are.
You really don't have to go far to find incredible things and places to be.
No, absolutely not. And you know what? And summer will slowly come to a wind down, and then it's fall. And fall in Vancouver, September, October, early November, it is beautiful here. We get some sunny stretches of weather, cooler, crisper. The changing of the colors. It's a beautiful time as well, right?
You know what, Andrew? When we were out for dinner last week, I of course mentioned this. September has always been my favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
You've still got big, bright, sunshiny days. It's getting cool and crisp at night, and you can feel it. And it's just a great turn of the season.
That month where you layer off. You start off with a little light sweater, and then by lunchtime, you got your polo shirt on, maybe even shorts if it's a nice day. And then next morning, again, it's cool and crisp. It's nice. It's a nice time. It's a healthy time of year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which
Now-
brings us to
Yeah.
September. Yes.
September. So
September.
we're calling this one the September issue because it's going to be jam-packed, probably more volume. We probably could have put it into 2 episodes, but we've been a little bit absent this because
Well, there was the shock and awe of April tariffs and the world was going to end. The stock market imploded. We've come a long way since then. The shock and awe has worn off for a lot of people.
yes,
World didn't end. The stock market recovered. And we're seeing people and activity start to sort of slowly right itself in the real estate market, which goes back to us saying, we've said this many times before, Jeff, is that people have to move. Things are going on in people's lives, which precipitate them to have to make decisions whether they're buying or selling. And so we're starting to see that activity slowly start to, the ship is righting itself. It always does. The question is, what does the fall market look like? Does it start to pick up and go gangbuster? Does it just sort of get back to a bit of a normal, steady level? Or do we stay at sort of these very suppressed numbers where volumes are just way under 10-year norms or averages? So that's the unknown. And that's, of course, no one has a crystal ball, but that's what we're here to put our perspective into it.
yes. And
Yeah.
a good place for our standard disclaimers.
You say it, Jeff, because you say it better than I do.
For relevant, actionable information. And that said, this is not investment advice, and we're better realtors than accountants, lawyers, and financial advisors. Full disclosure, we are owners of Vancouver real estate. We like it when prices go up, and we make a fee when we help you.
That's why we're positive guys, right?
Now, we also, we've been quite active. So July and so far into August, it's been busier. We're having an unusual Vancouver summer market, and we're still well below the 10-year averages for sales. And there's a lot more homes for sale, but a more active market than we saw in spring, which typically is the most active portion of the year. And for me, by typically, I mean 32 out of the 35 springs I've been in the business.
Yeah.
That's been the busiest time of the year. So
That sort of March, April, or February, March, April into May, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, this summer, we've had some great inventory. It's been well received, come and sold. Lots of buyers taking advantage, tons of selection, low pressure, and they've been the buyers that we've been working with have been able to negotiate some super purchases. It's all been busy and fun, and it's like it was in the early days.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, first of all, when you said lots of buyers, I actually don't think there's lots of buyers. I think the buyer pool is still very small, but the buyers that are out there are actually looking to do something. So what I've noticed is instead of you having, 70, 80 people through an open house, you might have 15 to 20, but they're all people that are actually, looking to do something. At least that's what I found at my opens. And again, I think it really depends on the price point that you're in as well. But I found that the number of buyers out there is definitely much lower than what we've always been used to. But the people that are out there looking are actually understanding that there's opportunity in this market. And I got to tell you, how many years in Vancouver we've been selling, and it's the same as you, Jeff, 3 decades or so, is if you're a buyer of Vancouver real estate, especially in that price range of the lower end in the 500s up to 3 million, where most of the buyer activity happens is, a nice property comes on the market and the first open house is 27 pairs of shoes at the front door and there's 100 people come through, right? And if you want to make an offer, it's next week at 4 o'clock and just get in the queue, right? And so in this market, in many cases, buyers can submit an offer right away because they don't have an offer date. It's offers as they come. What a great opportunity for people to buy in this market and maybe not be under pressure and allow them to do proper due diligence, right? Whereas in the past, it's always, if you don't make a subject free offer, don't even bother. How many subject to the sale offers have you had this year? We've had a few people making offers conditional to the sale of their existing home, right?
Andrew, you know what? I said to somebody, I was on an appointment yesterday and we were talking about that. They were in their place and they didn't want to move until they found the next place. And I said, you know what? We've actually had more successful subject to sale offers in the last, I want to say 3 years than I've had in the 30 before that.
Yeah. So again, a great opportunity for buyers to actually take their time, do their due diligence, and buy with them not under all this pressure behind having to look over their shoulders. It's a great time, right?
Oh, for sure. And that really goes back when we look at the stats, January to June, the sales were quite weak.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden in June, it was down 10% year over year. and more than 25% below the 10-year average. Detached home sales in the first half of the year were the lowest level in 10 years, 40% below the 10-year average. But in July, all of a sudden, sales started to improve modestly, and we were only 2% below last year's July. So we're having a noticeable recovery right now. And so my hope is in the second half of the year, we're going to get back to a little bit more action, a little bit more activity, a little more liquidity, and a little more certainty, I think, for both buyers and for sellers.
Either that or grasping on any positive trend we can find because it's been so brutal out there. But and I'm just, because last July, it was also pretty suppressed as well. I mean, if I remember, the market was pretty quiet, right?
Absolutely. And that's the normal thing is in the summer months, things decline. Usually July sees more than a 10% drop from June. So that we went the other direction this year. And
that was all due to the tariffs, the shock and awe of all that uncertainty, right? So things slowly seem to be coming back, which is a great thing. And again, if you don't watch the news and you don't listen to too much social media and just get on with your life, things will okay. I mean, how many of your clients, Jeff, are in financial dire straits and have to sell because the bank's coming knocking at the door?
Very few.
I don't have any. I mean, not that I know of anyway.
It's a roundup.
Yeah, our clients are all fine. What's the stat? Is it roughly half of the homes in the west side of Vancouver, correct me if I'm wrong, are clear title anyway? There's no mortgages on half the homes?
So I saw some different numbers.
Okay.
That'll tie into what we're going to talk about later.
Yeah.
Sort of that 40 to 50% of homes in Vancouver don't have any mortgage on them.
Is that east and west combined, roughly?
That's the whole of Vancouver.
I mean, that's a massive amount of equity. People are sitting on homes that are of a value of at least, $1.5 million with no mortgage, right?
Well, Andrew, and then when you go into some of the areas like Kerrisdale and Shaughnessy, it's even higher. It's estimated as high as 60%. So
no one that we know, and maybe you'll concur, is in a situation where they really have to sell because they're in under financial duress, stress. It's all this economic craziness.
Yeah.
For the most part, the Vancouver market seems to be very resilient and very sound financially and stable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, when we see a slight recovery in motion like we are, it's still below some of those historic norms, but we're getting into maybe a little bit more balanced market conditions this fall. And so my outlook is I think September is going to be a good time to be buying and selling. So if you need to sell, you can do it.
Yeah.
And if you want to sell, you can also do it. You just need to make the right set of choices about what you're doing.
Yeah. And that leads us to how do you set yourself up for success if you're a seller coming out of a pretty soft market, ensuring that when you come to the market, you don't sit on the market for 120 days unsold and wonder why.
Exactly. So before we get into the next segment, we're not doctors. Not medical advice. This is the place in the drug ads where they say, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're not even saying that.
Yeah.
If you've had kids or you know somebody who's had kids, you might remember at the birth, they did a thing called the APGAR test.
This is where I got totally messed up when I'm looking at your notes, but yes. And I Googled it. Now I know what it is. Yes.
I thought about this over the last couple of years since our kids were born. And I thought, okay, so the APGAR test assesses 5 criteria of a newborn's health immediately after birth. So the appearance, how's the skin color? What's the pulse? What's the heart rate? Grimace, which is what they call reflex irritability. And, I read that. I still have a high reaction here when I get bad. So I could assume I would be a healthy baby.
You've never grown up, Jeff. You've never.
Activity, what's the muscle tone? And respiration. What's the breathing rate and what's the effort?
So now we're going to take that and extrapolate it to the housing market.
Exactly. So each one of those criteria, you score a 0, a 1, or a 2.
Okay.
The total ranging from 0 to 10. And a higher score indicates a healthier newborn. So we transfer that same model over to a new listing.
Yeah.
We have, wait for it, the LACAP test.
There.
Location, accommodation, condition, accessibility, and price. So we look at location.
By the way, did you make that acronym up or is that a real one?
I made it up.
I've never heard of it before.
The APGAR?
No, that one I've heard. Well, I've
No,
heard
the
of that.
APGAR is a total thing. The LACAP, I mean,
LACAP. Did you make that up?
I did. It's mostly original.
I
The
love
first
it.
time I
Amazing.
saw APGAR, I thought, oh, how can we, typical realtor, how can I make this above me?
I didn't have a clue what that was. I had to Google it, and anyway. So, but thank you. That now I love it. It's great. Okay, good. Yes.
So when we look at location, where is it? What's the neighborhood like? Is it on an active street, right next to a fire hall, easy walk to shopping, transportation, somewhere with a view? Was it generally or specific for buyers? Is it close to my job, close to my in-laws, far from my in-laws, whatever.
Yeah.
The thing about location, though, is it's tough to change, but there are normally some objectively, or I want to say typically more or less desirable locations. And so if you've got a great location, you give yourself a 2. If you've got maybe a less desirable location, you take a lower score.
Yeah. Okay. And then you can offset that with making sure that your price reflects the inferior location or opposite.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can adjust for all these things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
If you're looking at the accommodation, like if you're 4 bedrooms up, that's very rare and that's great accommodation. Everybody's looking for that.
Okay.
If you've got a low basement, whatever it is, you can make adjustments. Condition of the home, how's it kept? Is it turnkey? Is there 30 years of deferred maintenance? Was it kept beautifully, totally updated, or is it an overfurnished mess? Sometimes tidy is more important than clean, but we've also both walked into places and gone, yikes, get me out of here.
And this is the one of the 2 things that sellers have total control over when they're going to list their homes is
Yes.
Right? How many
Yes.
times have you got clients, people, they want to sell their home, you walk in and it's like, it's not in great shape and the seller wants top dollar and doesn't want to do anything.
Yes.
Right? Versus people recognize the fact that they got to get their home spit and polished to attract the market and get their price.
Well, it's like the boiling frog analogy, right? Like the frog doesn't realize it's boiling until it's too late.
Yeah.
The same thing is true. If you've been in your house for 30, 40 years, just every day goes by a little bit and the maintenance sort of creeps up on you. And then there's a lot of work that needs to be done, right?
There is. And so that's where you and I can add tremendous value, is making sure that our clients are giving great advice at the initial appointment to ensure that they take some time to get their home in proper saleable condition. And many of those things you don't see. They're not visual things. They're changing the filters, getting the boiler serviced, all those kind of things. Just making sure everything's all tuned up.
And that way, when the inspector gets in there and he says, oh, look at this, they just changed the filter. These people are doing all the right maintenance.
Correct-moi. Yes.
The one that everybody forgets about, this is the accessibility.
I love this one.
Get it, show it, see it. The biggest challenge we have with some of our listings right now isn't condition, location, or accommodation. It's the fact that we can't actually get in and show them.
Because they're tenanted, maybe?
Many times, yes.
Yeah.
You can have everything else be right. And if this one is wrong, you're still going to have trouble getting it sold. So buyers have a lot of choice. And if you can't get in, show it, when they say, oh, we want to see it tomorrow at 2:30, a lot of times that'll be a missed opportunity because there's 3 or 4 other ones that they can go and see, right?
Yeah. And again, if you've got a property that's tenanted, there's no question it poses more challenges getting access. And at the same time, if the tenants aren't the tidiest people, because that can happen. I mean, homeowners can be messy as well. There's nothing in it for the tenant for them to have to clean up their space. And if they don't clean up and it's messy, there's no question that does put a drag on saleability.
For sure.
Yeah.
And the last factor that can compensate for all the others is, of course, price. And if the value of what we're offering isn't a match for the value the market sees for the home with so much competition, it's not enough to be in the range or pretty close. Anytime there's significantly more listings than buyers, you've got to be right on with the price. And this can be a subtle change. So 5% can take it from being a drift on the market for 6 months to it's the hottest thing in town that weekend and everybody's coming to take a look at it. So with the APGAR test for babies, a score of 7 to 10 is generally reassuring. Less than that is sometimes problematic. For our house question, though, we've really got to be 8 or better if we want to get sold in this market. So if you've got a house, for example, great location, perfect layout, immaculate condition, show it whenever you want, but is a little bit overpriced, 2, 2, 2, and 2, and 0 gives us an 8, that house will probably still get an offer even in this market. But if it was priced right or slightly below the most recent sale, you're going to sell it. There's going to be no problem there.
Yeah, the market has a way of very quickly figuring out what's good value and what's not.
Yeah.
Right?
And probably more realistic, maybe one of them, you've got a 2 score for your location, you've got a 1 for your condition, you've got a 1 for accessibility, 1 for your price, and a 2 for,
Let me ask you a question, Jeff.
for accommodation. Yeah, go ahead.
In your professional opinion, if there's 10 homes on the market in a specific general neighborhood area, how many of those homes at any given time, at that same time, would score high on the LACAP? How are we going to pronounce that? LACAP?
The property APGAR.
Okay. The LACAP test. Anyway, how many are going to be like priced for perfection versus not? My sense is usually out of 10, 1 or 2 will be priced well. The rest will be sort of like, there'll be 2 or 3 way out there, and there'll be a few that are high and just sort of coasting, and then there'll be 1 or 2 that are actually priced really, really well. And where it all makes sense.
I'll tell you the exact number because
Thank you.
I think it's actually the relationship between the number of listings for sale and how many of them sell in that month. And so, West Side detached, we're seeing 1 home in 12. So that means to me that only 1 home in 12 is going to purchase for.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, that makes sense. Versus in a seller's market where you might have only 3 months of supply, you've got 100 listings and 33 sales. So then it's right. Okay.
So a few years ago, we had a little townhouse listing in Richmond.
Okay.
And there was less than 1 month's supply on the market.
So incredibly tight market.
30 sales in the previous month, and there were like 25 lists.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't have to do anything right. You basically put it on MLS.
There were so many buyers lurking around waiting, right? Just a massive pool of buyers.
No listings. People through the open house.
So that was 2020, back end of 2020, 2021, 2022 during COVID, when the market was just nuts, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's the opposite. You got a fair amount of product and a small pool of buyers.
Yeah.
So these things we're talking about, location, accommodation, you don't have much control over. That is what it is.
Yeah.
Addition, how accessible the house is, and price, you've got total control. And in this market, more critical than ever to get those 3 right.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
I just thinking about that townhouse that we sold and how great the market was then. And then I'm thinking about, and this is something you pointed out to us, the Chloe on West Boulevard.
The Chloe. Yes. It was completed. They got their occupancy permit June of the last year. So what's that, 15 months ago, 14 months ago. And if you walk by the building in the evening today, there's the odd light on in the building. Very, very few lights. It's mostly pitch black.
Yeah.
And there's 1 commercial space occupied. There's a Pilates studio that went in, and I wish them well. I hope they do. Every other space is empty. And if you went into the sales center in 2022, because I went in with various clients, they told me at the time in 2022 that all the commercial spaces were sold. They were spoken for. So nothing.
So the Chloe is it a 4-story?
It's a 41 unit strata condominium development in Kerrisdale, Parisian style. It was marketed to a demographic that was affluent, high end finishings. You went into the sales center. You could sit down, have an expensive scotch. They had a thing.
Remember the marketing? I thought the marketing was fantastic.
It was top end, and of course, it was being marketed during I guess 2021, 2022, when the market was obviously still going gangbuster. But we couldn't sell any units in there, Jeff. We just found the floor plans were really awkward.
Okay.
And small rooms, and the prices just seemed to be in the stratosphere, like big prices for these places. And our clients just couldn't wrap their head around the pricing. But at the time, I think before the market really shifted, I think they'd sold about 60 to 70% of the units, because they always had, they were never sold out. It was always
Yeah.
getting close to being, well, not close to being sold out, but they had maybe 70%, 75% sold on the development. And June 2024 came, building was completed, and I just noticed there was no one moving in.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember we talked about it.
Yeah, no one moving in. Commercial spaces were empty. And then all of a sudden, and there were no open houses. After it was completed, there were no open houses, which was kind of odd. Like, why wouldn't they have open houses for the unsold units?
Yeah.
It was really weird. And then all of a sudden, there was a weekend in this, I'm going to say 4 or 5 months ago, there was actually an open house at the development. And the realtor was representing some of the unsold. There were 3 or 4 units open. And we walked in and had a peek, and the building was virtually empty. There was no one in there. There might have been hard to tell, but there were very few people living in there, I'm pretty sure, because the building was still pitch black at night. Walked into some of the units, and there was some very unusual layouts. Every layout was different, and it was just eerie. And I recall asking the realtor, I said, how many people have moved in? And he actually told me that, quite a few people have moved in, and mostly all been pre-sold. I could sense it was a rat. It didn't seem right to me. So carry on.
So when I saw this, there's an article in the newspaper, and they're talking about the receivership and how that was going, and that there was likely going to be a dramatic price adjustment to get these units sold.
Yeah.
25, 30% discounts on what the original asking prices has been. And that's not insubstantial, but that does line up exactly with what we're talking about. Like here, you're in Kerrisdale, you've got a great location. Maybe the accommodation isn't quite perfect, but you've got great accessibility. I mean, if the units are vacant and you need to get in there and take a look at them, that's great. What you can deal with then is if they're not selling, you can adjust for price and then you can try and move them out. So we're seeing the developers having to do the same thing as just regular homeowners. If they've got a product and it's not sold and they need or want to get it sold, they just got to make those adjustments and get it on and get it out the door.
Yeah, so unofficially, because these units were being sold at big prices, from what I was told, out of the 41 units, 25 of the buyers didn't close. They walked away on deposits.
Wow.
It's a big number. Developer got stuck, huge amount of debt accruing. I think there's a second mortgage over 10%. Like there's a lot of debt on that property.
Yeah.
So it's going into court-ordered sale. That's what I've heard unofficially, but it looks that way because there's no activity. And now we're 15 months later and the building is still virtually empty. All the commercial spaces have now for sale signs on them. So obviously people walked away on the deposits, and that's just a result of what's happened to the pre-sale condo market, which might be another topic, but obviously that's an area of the real estate market that's really had a tough time and continues to struggle. There's no question about it.
And here's the shameless plug for you and I.
Yeah.
If you're out there and you're looking to buy a condo in Kerrisdale, call us. We know about a building where there might be some good purchase.
Well, there's no question. I think these units were like a 1-bedroom in there was with GST was like 1.1 million.
Yeah.
I'll be able to pick it up now for, I don't know, 800 grand, 750, 800,000. Pretty good deal. And a great building in a phenomenal location. And this is just an unfortunate, this is a victim of a really tough real estate market that's really negatively impacted the pre-sale market. Like all the investors have been chased away, right? There's just no investor buyers, right? And they're the ones that the developers relied on to sell these projects to the point where they could get their financing, right? So,
and Andrew, that's a great point, because if you look at those sales that didn't complete,
yeah,
if there was somebody that needed a home to live in, they probably would have just gone ahead with it and said, gosh, you know what? I overpaid. Not a big deal. I love this place. I really want to live here and I need a roof over my head. But chances are the ones that walked away were just investors who said, I paid this much. It's worth this much. My deposit's that much. You know what? It's cheaper for me just to say, see you later and buy something else.
Just buy something else and just take the loss and move on kind of thing. So that's not just happened in Kerrisdale. We're not going to get into other properties, but there've been other developments around the city that have canceled their projects or delayed them because of a lack of sales. And we have clients that have been caught in that unfortunate situation. They got their deposits back, no problem, but they waited for 8 or 9 months to find out that the development that they'd bought a unit in had been canceled, just simply because there were not enough sales for the developer to get their construction financing. Didn't sell enough.
With a lot of those buyers, there was some relief where
no question about it.
Prices have come down and I don't have to buy it. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, no, there's absolutely. I mean, if you negotiated to buy something in 2021 maybe 2022. The reality is today, prices are down, interest rates are up, and the numbers just don't make a lot of sense. So if you were able to get out of it or the project was to cancel, you're probably better off. Yeah, going forward.
With prices coming down on a project like that and some of the interest rates also coming down, I geeked out sometimes over the last 25 years and done some measures on affordability ratios.
Yeah.
So you might ask yourself, what does an affordability ratio measure?
So I actually read that part of your outline, Jeff, and everyone should be happy to know I actually understood what you were talking about. So
Okay, very good.
Thank you very much. But yes.
So an affordability ratio.
Go through it because it's pretty amazing. Yeah, go through it.
Simply a benchmark that compares the cost of housing measured by mortgage payment, rent, or price to income ratios against household income. Yeah. So it's designed to give a one measure snapshot of how much a household's earnings would need to be devoted to housing costs.
Yeah.
For example, price to income ratio is a simple one that a lot of people will use. But the big takeaway for me when I started doing this is I would say, it's the housing affordability ratio. And people would say, well, this is not affordable. It doesn't mean anything. So why does it mean housing is affordable? The ratios are useful indicators, but they don't automatically mean that housing is affordable. So it's a relative number. It's not absolute. The ratio only shows how current market conditions compare to historical norms or to other markets. It's an incomplete picture, and it's just a spectrum, not a threshold. So
it's one way to measure. It's one way to measure and reconfirm that Vancouver real estate is highly unaffordable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just basically that, a diagnostic tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we go back and do the research, so going back to 1977, we want to chart the results as an expression of percentage that monthly mortgage payment is of the average monthly wage. So we take the average sale price of a detached house in Greater Vancouver.
Yeah.
And then we calculate the mortgage payment based on 25% down payment and the posted interest rates for a 5-year term and a 25-year AM.
At that time.
And then we use the average actual household income from StatsCan for each of those years to make the calculation use nominal prices and incomes. So what does all that tell us when we do it? And we chart it out going back to 1977. Well, interestingly, if we go back to 1977, your mortgage payment as a percentage of your average monthly household income.
Gross income.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in 1978, it was at its lowest. So it was just over 30%.
Which is where it should be. That's the normal ratio.
Everybody said.
So basically, it's been 50 years since the numbers have been where they should be. Roughly.
Exactly. But here's the thing for me, the main takeaway on this for me is that if you think about risk as an expression of deviation from the mean, so a line that goes like this as it rises,
right?
We see in 1978, the payment was 30% of income. Just a few years later in 1981, when the price spiked and interest rates went up, jumped all the way up to 80, just over 80%.
Okay.
And then by 1985, just before Expo, it had dropped back down to 40%.
Okay.
Then the next high water mark, it went up to about 60%. This was in 1991.
Right.
Just when just when I started in the business.
So right around that time. Yeah. Okay.
1993, it fell back a little bit to just under half.
Okay.
And then in 1995, 66%. And then all the way to 2000, it had dropped back down to 40%. And you'll remember David Andrews talking to both of us in late 1999, early 2000. He said, Jeff, you've got to consider this. The market has been falling for 5 or 6 years.
Correct.
At the same time that's been happening, wages have been increasing. And so what it's done is it's made homes tremendously more affordable.
Right.
In the marketplace.
Good time to buy.
And so I said today, I said, well, okay, great. What does that mean? It's go and buy a house, sell your condo and get into a house.
Yeah.
Of course, we did that, unfortunately, because then it jumped up by 2007. It had jumped up to 65%. And then it fell back in 2009 during the financial crisis, 50%. Then in 2012, after it started to run up again, 76%, then fell back to 69, then went back up to almost 88%, then back to 73. The next high water mark was in 2022, and it eclipsed 100% and went up to 122. What does that mean? That means that the average payment was 20% more than the average monthly wage.
Which meant it just, the numbers just didn't make any sense relative to incomes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then, but here's the exciting thing for that. So that was tremendously unaffordable, but there was still lots of houses selling and lots of activity in the market. Where's that number today? Still very high at 104%, but tremendously lower than it was in 2022.
Right.
Everybody's watching and waiting to say, oh, is now a good time to buy? So any time in the past where the affordability number has dropped back significantly like it has now, it may not be the exact right time, but it certainly is a good time.
It's more compelling now than it was 8 months ago or a year ago, no question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another client of mine, we were talking about this the other day, and they said to me, well, Jeff, yeah, but when are the prices really going to come down? And I said, we might be waiting for a long time for that. And there's a couple of factors that make Vancouver prices sticky on the way down.
Yeah.
So the first one is high density. So Vancouver's Canada's densest city. Okay, there's like 5,700 people per square kilometer that live here. It's the highest in the country, and it's the fourth highest in North America. So there's just a lot of people that live here. We're really constrained for property. We've got mountains, we've got a border, we've got farmland. There's no place else to build. The only place we can go is up. Or more dense on the properties that are already here.
And people want to be here too. It's a city where people want to migrate to if they can afford it, but they want to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and and that's sort of the main thing of it. It's an incredible place to live.
Yeah.
There's also, along with those supply constraints, there's a lot of exclusionary zoning. So at this number, 81% of residential land in Vancouver is zoned for single family and duplexes. So even though everybody says, oh, Vancouver, it's all towers and condos and whatever, 4/5 of it is just zoned residential for houses and duplexes and that sort of thing.
But now, of course, with the new zoning, you are allowed to build up to 6 units on a single family house, on a single family lot. So that has totally changing.
More.
Yeah.
And that primarily is showing up in some of the single family neighborhoods.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
the question that was posed is Vancouver holding on to an outdated dream? Well, yes, a little bit. I don't think detached homes are going to fall 50% so somebody can buy into it, or it's going to get back to some kind of a workable 40% affordability ratio.
Yeah.
Detached homes have skyrocketed in price far beyond income growth. They pushed many of the residents towards condos and multiplexes, but until recently, zoning was really limited for those alternatives. So policy and the market now are finally starting to align. And we see this all over the place, all over our neighborhood. We see duplexes going up, triplexes, fourplexes. We've got a number of developers that we're working with that they're in the planning stages of gorgeous 5 and 4 unit condo projects, great townhouses, rooftop decks. And it's just going to all fold nicely into those residential neighborhoods. And there's going to be new construction in livable formats at half the price of a detached new home.
So the city is evolving, and it's happening as a result of what we've seen in the past, where we need to come into a new era based on the fact that it's become so unaffordable. So we're densifying, we're being creative with our land to create more units on these smaller lots. Yeah. So you've got multiplexes, and like you said, we're seeing it in our neighborhood too, where these big new developments are going up on these, 50 and 60-foot lots that before there was just an old 1950s rancher. Now there's 4 big units going up. So we're adapting. All the rental buildings, like the city's changing. And I think about it, all these big international cities around the world, you don't see any single family homes until you actually go about 10 miles outside the core. The core is all just multi-unit buildings and high rises and low rises. There's no single families. They're all outside the city.
Andrew, in June, we were in Paris. When I compared some of the other international cities for density,
Yeah.
Paris was one of the highest. It had like 20,000 people per square kilometer.
And how far you have to go before you see a house?
I mean, you got to get on the train. It's a bit of a hike. Now, we were staying in a very residential district, but there wasn't a detached house in sight.
Yeah.
All apartments. All people just live in less space, and they're accustomed and
in a culture. Yeah. You have to go out to the countryside, right?
Yeah, for sure.
See a house, right? So I mean, not to say that's going to happen in Vancouver in our lifetime, but we're having to adapt because, again, you've got a 10,000 square foot lot with a single family house on it in Kerrisdale or Mackenzie Heights.
Yeah.
2 people living in it. Just doesn't make any sense.
No.
Right?
This goes to the other part of the conversation we were having earlier. With so many of those big lot homes with 1 or 2 people living in them, they're clear title. Those people don't have to move. They can defer their property taxes. They don't even have to worry about that expense. They can basically live there for free until they decide it's time to go and try something different.
We see so many of these old houses, and there'll be seniors living in there, and then they pass on. The kids get it, and sometimes they're not in such a rush to do anything with it. They can just keep them as a revenue property. Yeah. So these things are just sitting there when, if they could be redeveloped, it would add so much more supply to the marketplace. Going back to your point on single-family houses, we're seeing fewer and fewer single-family homes being built in the city now. It's all duplexes or multiplexes. So owning a single-family home down the road could be a very valuable type of dwelling to own because it's just becoming less and less. If you want to buy a brand new single-family home in the west side of Vancouver, there's not that many.
There's not that many being built. And the ones that are out there are getting more and more dear. And I think as people's tastes and expectations evolve, we'll start to see maybe some of those people that are living in their houses are going to be more willing to let them go and live in something else. And where 1 person is certainly, or 2 persons are living on that lot, maybe all of a sudden there's room for 3, 4, or 5 families to live there. Sure. And, all kinds of benefits will accrue from that.
No question about it. Again, it's just a sign of the times. Things are changing.
Totally.
Right?
So when we look at that, the buyers, they're not just local or rational. There's a lot of multi-generational family purchasers pooling wealth. We're seeing that a lot where mom and dad are living in the big house. They build a laneway. The kids live in that. There's still a lot of investors hedging against currency and inflation risk. Demand can remain high even if the prices are pushing other people out. And we're seeing this a lot. We're seeing a lot of the developers crying for allowing foreign buyers to come back in to purchase the presale units so that the supply can actually get built.
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. Like, I don't want to advocate for prices going higher, but if one of the ways that you're going to continue to build out supply that people can actually live in or want to get into after the fact, maybe that's something that could be considered.
But here's the thing, Jeff. Even if they were to remove that foreign buyers ban, and maybe they just do it on pre-sale, new construction as opposed to resale. So fair enough. Do you think there's still all that demand from the foreign buyers that want to come and invest here? I mean, again, so much has changed in the number of years since the foreign buyers ban went into effect. We've got all these additional taxes. We've got the foreign buyer. If you're an investor, which many of them are, there's been so much government policy implemented, which really, deters them from putting their money here because they're going to get taxed to death at the end if they try to sell these things, flip them on assignments or sell them at the end. There's all these flipping taxes, and you got the provincial level, you got the federal level. At the end of the day, is there anything left for these people? So is there any incentive for them to invest? I don't know if so quickly the foreign buyers are going to come running back. Back in 2013 to 2019, we had all that money flowing in from China.
Yeah.
And the Chinese government put controls on that money leaving China. And the Canadian government put all those controls on the money investing in real estate and then taxing them to death. So is that money going to come back so quickly? I don't know. I mean, I do call on buyers,
I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah.
I recognize that those are all major hurdles.
Yeah.
But what I keep coming back to is clean air, clean water,
Oh, yeah.
safe streets, and the best place in the world to live.
Oh, listen, I'm totally with you. I just don't know if that money's going to flow in like it was before. But, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But
if you're somewhere else and you want to lifeboat some money, and the easiest way for you to do that is to pick up a couple of condos that you're going to rent out.
Yeah.
You're maybe less concerned about what kind of rental income you're getting. You're just buying it so you could safeguard some money here in some kind of
in a great place.
Yeah.
With over, even though the rental market's soft today, overall, putting things into perspective, in Vancouver, in the markets that we work in, maybe a bit further out, overall, the rental market's still very sound. You find good quality tenants. You can create good cash flow streams from owning some good real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So.
Absolutely. The thing that gets less attention sometimes is the idea of what affordable is. Vancouver, as well as being more expensive, is also more densely populated.
Yeah.
Despite that fact, there's still a large concentration of single-family homes. Affordable is really overused and simply doesn't apply. Attainable may be more in line, right? So we have to get used to the idea that we may need to live in a smaller space and different types of homes if we do want to live in close to the city core.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we know is all this is dealing with a lot of averages. So like we said before, it's not always the best measure. A lot of the first-time buyers, when you think, well, how can anybody afford to spend 122% of their monthly wage? Well, the truth of it is that that's assuming a smaller down payment. If somebody's being gifted or loaned from their family or whatever that's looking like, and we know that, 35 or 40% of the first-time home purchases, there is family bank assistance with that.
Absolutely.
That raises up the level of down payment and reduces the size of the mortgage. And then all of a sudden it just becomes more affordable. Somebody puts a tenant in one of the suites in their house, and that again will offset some of that payment and provide some needed accommodation in the marketplace. So
I think people are being more creative. And I think the buyers today, the first-time buyers today, the young buyers today, have a whole different attitude than, say, our generation or our parents' generation when it comes to housing. I mean, it's just a different world today. I think the new generation, they're not as materialistic as we were. They can live very comfortably with less in a smaller space. They're mobile. Many of them don't work. Many of them work remotely, right? They work for a company.
Have to be okay.
Yeah. It's just a different world, right? I just know from talking to a lot of young people, they don't need the same amount of stuff that we had, right? So it's just a different world. It's just attitude shifts, right? Just attitude shifts. So we have to recognize that because we don't want to become old dinosaurs in the process, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
I know. I was just looking over some of the density numbers, and just as a comparison, Vancouver, 5,800 people per square kilometer.
Yeah.
But still a lot of single family zoning dominating. San Diego is actually lower than Vancouver, 45.
Lower density. Okay.
But still primarily car oriented and the land per person there.
Yeah.
Los Angeles, 8,500 people per square kilometer, and they transition heavily into apartments and duplexes.
Yeah.
Still clinging a little bit to detached living, and that missing middle that we're making use of here in Vancouver is, I guess, starting to, shape some of the conversation there.
Sure.
Sydney, Australia, similar to Los Angeles. London, 15,000 people per square kilometer.
Okay.
Detached houses are rare, like we've talked about.
Yeah.
Paris, almost entirely mid-rise apartments.
Yeah.
No detached expectation inside the city. And then Hong Kong, basically 25,000 people per square kilometer.
Through the roof, right?
Vertical living is the standard, right? Tiny apartments, dense towers. Affordability still brutal, but it's just normal if you want to live there, right?
Yeah. Well, and choices that people make, right? I mean, the nice thing about here is you've got elbow room on the streets.
Yes.
Right?
So where does that leave us? Oh, Parker's just coming to see. You coming for this? Yes.
There you go. Parker is Jeff's dog.
So
are we gonna see Parker or not?
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
He's a little camera shy.
Okay. I love it. I love it.
We've got, when we're talking about affordability in Vancouver, what we've got to do probably is reframe the dream a little bit. So
Yep.
owning a detached house in Kerrisdale, Dunbar Point Grey is going to remain a luxury. It's
Yeah.
just not going to become affordable for people in the traditional sense.
Not in our lifetime, anyway.
Yeah. So the real
Yeah.
shift then probably isn't financial. It's more cultural and around maybe less equating success with a single family home and starting to value lifestyle, location, and sustainability.
And I think young people are totally fine with that. I think young people are fine in a multi-family type setup. Young people today want to travel more. They want experiences.
Yeah.
As you and I do too, right? So I think a generation ago or two generations ago, that big family house and all that extra accommodation on the big lot today, I mean, it's lovely to have, but I think people today don't need all that space and all that commitment, right? They want to have less so they can have more freedom, right?
Absolutely.
Right? So that's okay. We have to adapt with the times.
We do
Right.
for sure. So
Right.
what's the big takeaway then for our clients? You know, Vancouver is becoming a two-tiered market. Those with equity participate. Homeowners should leverage equity carefully, whatever they're doing, and think creatively about co-buying, smaller units, long-term renting in strong locations. You know, all these things can really play into it. The other thing too was the takeaway that there's not a government policy that's going to solve it. Policy changes can smooth the edges, but won't reverse fundamentals. So
Yeah.
I think instead of looking to the government to say fix housing, I think it's more on us to approach it from the point of view of how can I change my situation? How can I alter my expectations? And what does that mean as far as getting along? Because there's places in the world where nobody lives in detached homes and they seem pretty happy.
It's just attitude shifts, lifestyle shifts, no question about it. I mean, you just have to face the fact that Vancouver is a very unaffordable city.
Yeah.
Still live here, but you just have to adjust the way that you're going to be living. Otherwise, if it doesn't work, then you don't live in Vancouver. You live out in the suburbs or change cities. It's all about trade-offs, right? If you want to live on the mountains and the ocean and in our beautiful climate, we don't have hurricanes. We don't have extreme weather. Thank goodness you can get insurance on your property in the Lower Mainland, right? There's a lot of jurisdictions where getting insurance now is not that easy. If you live up in the Okanagan, all the fires up there, right? Of course, if you live in some parts of the States with hurricanes, you can't get insurance down there. So a lot going for us here. There's no question of a lot going for you, but it is highly unaffordable. So you do have to have the financial means, or you have to become very creative with
Yes.
how you're setting up your living, right? You live in small
Absolutely.
spaces, like the co-buying thing. Haven't been involved in any of those transactions, but that's something that I think a lot of young people are looking at as an alternative. But it's going to take some creativity. There's no question. Or you move out of the city. It's that simple.
I think so. So the summary in one line for me is wealth and lifestyle security come from owning or controlling real estate early.
Yeah.
And with that, reframing expectations maybe away from detached homes or co-owning. Maybe you're getting a portion of a detached home or whatever that looks like. And then positioning around density and long-term holding, because neither governments nor markets are going to deliver widespread affordability resets. Like, it's never going to be as cheap as it was. And the government can't really help us with that.
And I think that the sooner that people realize that, they're always looking to government for their big rescue plan. But I agree with you. There's only so much they can do. And if you rely on government, I think you're going to be disappointed. You know, they make all these promises and really, what was the latest during the election? Was it 500,000 homes per year we were going to build in Canada? It was some crazy number like that. So,
Big number.
yeah,
Like
and I think housing starts this year falling to the floor. We're going to miss even our low estimates this year by we're not even coming remotely close to 500,000. So it's not going to happen. I think you have to sort of just adjust your expectations. And again, understand that we live in a very expensive part of the world. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
You have to be creative with your buying expectations or adjust. And that's just the reality of it, right? Yeah. Hey.
Parker's telling me he wants to go for a walk. So I just want to wrap up on one thought.
Yes.
I'm cautiously optimistic for the fall market. Homes are still going to be easily sold, provided we make all the right choices and process decisions. And we always want to be cautious about having the market tell us what we're going to do versus we deciding what we're going to do inside of the market.
Yeah.
So if you are thinking about a move, if your house doesn't fit your lifestyle anymore, you do want to move on or explore opportunities in something different, we're definitely interested in having that conversation. And I think as long as you've got some piece of Vancouver, or if you're finished in Vancouver and you want to cash out, either of those is a totally valid decision and there's nothing the matter with it.
Yeah, I think you have to do what's going to work for you. Everyone's got things going on in their lives that causes them to make changes, change the chapter, whatever it is, and you carry on. And again, when it comes down to listing your home, there's certain things you have control over, like the condition of the home. Make sure you set yourself up for success, right? And
For sure.
make sure your home stands out amongst the crowd.
Parker's going to drag me outside. Hey, listen, thank you. This was a terrific episode. And we are going to be looking forward to the next one and having everybody listen to this. So
Hey,
this is Industry Vancouver. I'm Jeff Benna.
and Andrew Hasman,
We look forward to being of help.
bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in today. We appreciate your time and your attention. If we can be of further help or information, we look forward to hearing from you. We respectfully acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, including the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations.